ahead and start the meeting, at least we can have our discussions about things. Again, we just can't vote on anything. Most of the things are more discussion oriented anyway. We can't approve the minutes, so we'll have to hold those till the next meeting unless somebody else hops on. And neither Mary Beth nor Lloyd are here, so no questionnaire about businesses. Railroad crossing. Megan, you may have something to say about it. I will let you know. I went over to Concord Park and I spoke with a staff person there, one of their nurses, and she said they only have one gentleman who uses a wheelchair. I was assuming whoever it was from Concord Park because it's so close behind there. But we spoke with that gentleman. He said he had never gotten caught on the railroad tracks. So, but he looked a lot like the guy I saw. So, he might have been, he might have forgotten it or, just didn't feel like talking about it. But the nurse was going to let the staff know to kind of keep an eye on people. It's certainly not just the wheelchairs, it's dangerous also for people with walkers or other devices. So, yikes. Megan, do you have any update?
Hi, I'm sorry about this. I'm trying to get my camera to work. My update is that we have been in touch with Rep. Cataldo's office. We've talked to the safety folks at the MBTA and the Architectural Access Board. And the Architectural Access Board has gone out and done a few site visits in the last 2 weeks. And this was an update that I just got on July 6th, and they expect to have a report issued. So I don't know, exactly what that means, but there's definitely some attention on this issue. I mean, it's not as immediate as would all prefer, but it has. Let me see. What did I'm trying to find it on here. Okay, so on July 6th, Kyle from Rep. Cataldo's office said he received word from the Architectural Access Board that the MBTA has conducted multiple site visits and will be issuing a report within the next 2 weeks.
Could you say that again, please, Megan?
Sure.
What Cataldo's office said?
Yeah, July 6th, Rep. Cataldo's office told us that they received word from the Architectural Access Board that the MBTA has conducted multiple site visits and will be issuing a report within the next 2 weeks.
So that was on the 6th. That's 1 week ago today. So
yeah, I guess you're right. Time is flying.
The report should be out in another week, by the end of next week. So hopefully the Architectural Access Board will be able to get the MBTA's attention, because my feeling was there wasn't much appetite on the part of the MBTA to do anything about this.
Right.
The paving that they did that they needed to do anyway, but that didn't do anything for the issue.
Right.
Okay, well, let's hope Architectural Access Board can step in and convince the MBTA to do something about it. So Meryl, I see you on the call now. Now we have a quorum, so we can go back to the minutes and vote for approval of the minutes of the June 14th meeting. Did you all have a chance to read those minutes? Bob, you have your hand up.
Well, why don't we do the minutes and then
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion on the minutes?
I move to accept the minutes.
Okay, a second.
Second.
Okay, Bob seconded. Well, Janice, you have to, Janet, you have to
Yep.
ask
Okay,
people.
Jean,
I approve.
Bob? Bob? Do you approve?
Yes, I approve.
Yeah, okay. Karen,
Yes.
and Merrill, and me.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll go back to Bob with your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to raise a question as to whether any signage has been put in there to warn people about the problem of the tracks.
I would think that could be a possibility. Megan, do you have a thought about that?
Yes, that is a good point. We have not installed signage. We do have police and fire frequenting the area more often, and they're aware of it, but we haven't addressed the signage piece yet.
Okay,
Well, that seems important.
yeah.
Well,
And
Bob, would
we-
you repeat what you said? I missed what you said. You,
Well, I just said I think it's important to have some kind of signage.
Oh, in the beginning.
Warranting,
first statement
He just,
warning people
of what were you referring to? The railroad?
about the railroad track.
Okay, that's what I thought.
okay, so Grazi, I saw you have your hand up and then Karen. You're muted, Grazia.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay, I'm sorry. So I just wanted to respond to Janet. The question that Bob raised was any signage experiment to warn people of cracks. I think that's what he said.
Yep, and yep, thank you.
Welcome.
okay, Karen?
I just wanted to ask if there is any kind of signage, if this would also apply to the track crossing at Commonwealth Ave, because it's not just the crossing the train tracks and the by the Club Car Cafe and the rail trail, but also the street crossing, which is equally and maybe even more heavily traveled. But it's the configuration of the tracks is the same
Right.
there.
Right,
So it's just something to be aware of, I think, if we're looking at the whole situation.
sure. Well, and it can, again, in terms of looking at the whole situation, maybe also the Sudbury Road crossing in Concord Center.
Yep.
I mean, that at least has the lights and the sound and the arm that comes down when a train is coming. But if you've gone there and you're stuck, that's
Yeah.
not gonna do you much good. So I'm kind of thinking if we expect the reply from the report from the Architectural Access Board by the end of next week, maybe we hold to see what they say. And then Megan, maybe you and I can be in touch toward the end of July if it doesn't look like that report is going to have any result, and determine a next step in terms of signage or whatever. Okay, thank you.
Pure speculation, but it seems to me that it could take a long time for the MBTA to get on this, even if this recent study says that it should be done, so that something should be done about it. It still may be many months, or who knows, a year or more.
Well, you're right. And let's see what the Architectural Access Board says. And if it seems like something that MBTA is going to actually take some action on in the relatively near future, I would think that that's really the best option, because that then prevents wheels from, or whatever, from going down into the track. And then if not, let's look at the signage or whatever other warning kinds of things we can put out there for people. So I'm not thinking we wait 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, forever, but just let's see what the report says and then kind of go from there.
Okay.
Okay. Adaptive bikes. I just want to remind people that Concord has adaptive bikes available at the visitor center, and the town of Acton has adaptive bikes that are several different kinds that are available at Nara Park. For non-Acton residents, those are $5. It doesn't say really the time frame for $5, but at any rate, you can rent an adaptive bike from the town of Acton at a pretty nominal cost. And I think our Concord adaptive bikes, there's also a cost for those as well.
Excuse me, where are they in Concord? You said it, but I missed it.
They're right behind the visitor center. Actually, maybe I should probably get your comment on that, because that's you now.
It's me.
Oh, no. So actually I can speak on the bikes. So they're actually, they haven't been put out yet, but they are going out next week. Actually, I'm not sure about the ones in the visitor center. I know that there's plans to put them at the West Concord Center, and those are going out next week. I just spoke with our transportation planner on that. We have them in our possession. We just needed to do a couple things, but I just checked with her and they should be out next week.
Oh, wonderful. And do you know where those will be parked?
The West Concord station is on the Bruce Freeman, and it's like near the MBTA station, but it's down a little bit, like heading towards the Rotary and MCI, like heading that. I don't know if that's helpful.
It's near the Brookside Apartments.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
thank you. That's a better description.
Okay, great. Oh, that's terrific news. Thank you.
That's great.
Do you know how many there will be?
I don't know, but I can find out.
Grazi, I know last summer when they were at the visitor center, there were 2 adaptive bikes.
Thank you.
Okay, so Bob asked for a few minutes to sort of bring us up to date on hearing loss accommodations with the town.
Well, actually, I guess I would like to hear from Megan about that. We went over 5 goals, for bringing the town completely into compliance with ADA criteria for hearing accessibility. And I know that Megan said that she was going to look into getting some consultation, because there have been losses of town staff who had been involved. I heard from her recently that they're now missing another town staff member who's been very active in setting up the assistive listening equipment, Ryan Orr. Why don't we hear from you about that, Megan?
Sure, thank you. Yes, as Bob states, we've had a little bit of a shift in some of our staffing in Concord, and our facilities director, Ryan Orr, has recently moved on to an opportunity in the private sector. Yeah, he finished up earlier this month. So he has been, and we also have our finance director is moving on. Her last day is tomorrow. And so facilities in Maynard, a little unusual, but had been reporting to the finance director. That's the department that that division was housed. So we're losing 2 people that have been involved in facilities, including, you know, the mechanics of the rooms and things like that. And as Bob mentioned, there was another former staff person before I started that had been working specifically on the hearing assistance. So it's a rebuilding time right now. And to be honest, in the last few weeks, this staffing change has taken up a lot of my time because we're trying to figure out what are we going to do with facilities now? Where is it going to go? Our temporary solution to put the division in public works. So there's been a lot of communication and meetings and strategizing about how that will work for the short term, at least. So I did start to reach out to some firms about having a sound engineer do an assessment. And I don't have anything more to share with you than I did a month ago, because I've had some of these kind of time sensitive staffing challenges come up that have taken up a lot of time, and they're in the departments of which we'd need the support to do this. But in recent discussions with our IT director, I think that he will be a strong advocate and supporter for this effort. And he also has a real technical understanding. So I think that he will be my next partner in accomplishing this. Is that, there are a lot of other priorities right now too. Not that this isn't one, but we're trying to get self-service for Concord and a couple other things. So I want to get on his radar to assist with this. And I hope to have a better update at the next meeting. So I just want to be transparent about some of these other things that have some obstacles that have come up in the last month.
I certainly understand those obstacles, and that you're frustrated by them. I just have the concern that work has been going on for 3 years to put this system into shape, get the system into shape, and I know that over at Harvey Wheeler, there it is being used, and I've used the devices myself. They're not perfectly on top of it, and a little input from a sound engineer would be good, but at least they do have something, and they have signage, which wasn't there for a while, but now it's back again. Good signage. I think my biggest concern is over at the townhouse. Mark Polly was personally involved in making sure that the assistive listening system worked properly for all of the meetings in the select board room and in the hearing room. And he's no longer with the town, and I don't know who, if anybody, is making sure that that equipment is being used.
So I have a maybe unusual suggestion about it. Bob, you seem to have a lot of technically oriented people in your hearing loss group. Do you think there would be one of them who would be willing to volunteer and work with the town to check the equipment and see if it's working and so forth?
Well,
would that be allowed?
Oh yeah, we'll welcome any help here. but we might need, there's a couple of challenges in the actual room in the townhouse that I think actually is beyond the technology. I think that it's crazy, right? Like the hearing room used to be a courthouse. So but the acoustics really couldn't be worse. I mean, it's like, how did this work before? So there might need to be some type of, I don't know, it's like structural, like some other things like sound panels or other items to make that work in concert with the equipment that was purchased. But of course, I'd welcome any help from the volunteers. That's an amazing part about this community.
Well, I made one suggestion that, that you touch base with Vince Carlson, who's on the PEG accessory board, advisory board. And we do have other people who have different kinds of knowledge that could be relevant.
So Bob, do you think you could go back to your group and see if there's someone there that, or maybe a couple of people that would be willing to assist?
Well, yes, but I'm hearing that, that Megan is stretched beyond belief, and I guess the question is how much time you have to work with anybody.
Yeah, no, and I'm not trying to kind of unload on you all, but I think some of the questions that I'm going to need to answer are how much money is left in the account that we had for the equipment, right? Like, what was that appropriated for exactly? Because I thought maybe I could use that for a sound engineer. And then Jason from IT said that maybe we didn't finish purchasing all of the equipment yet. And so I have some digging to do. But I guess what I'm sharing is I am, finance and facilities is in flux. So those are the folks that I need the answers from. So I think what I'll try to do is provide a better update for you next time. And then maybe we can figure out what questions we really need answered. But without some of these basic facts, I feel like I'm a little bit shooting in the dark, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I think that there will be a time that I need support, and that trip will probably be soon. But until I understand wrap my arms around what we have available for resources, I'm probably not equipped to get to the next step.
Well, I think what I could do is, invite some of those people who have worked with me to be present at the meeting, and maybe you get a better sense of, who might be able to help with part of what you've got to do.
So have them come to our next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure, why not?
I was
So-
just wondering whether, since this is a highly specialized issue, whether we could ask, whether we, as a group, whether we need to all be involved, and whether the next disability meeting is the best use of our time. So I wondered whether the people that you could find, Bob, could meet with Megan when she feels ready, to get things really organized so that everybody can have an assignment. But I'm not sure that the whole Disability Commission, all the members really need to be present for the discussion, because it's certainly pretty removed from our other general issues.
Well, I guess I have mixed minds about that, because it seems to me that a disability commission for a town has to be, concerned about multiple disabilities. And the hearing loss one is a very significant one for a good many people, as well as, people who can't walk around, and people who can't see well, and so forth. So I don't want to just see this, be relegated to another arena. I think the commission has to, tune in on it periodically.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, periodically, we definitely should, participate. But I'm just saying, it depends on on what you're trying to accomplish in the next meeting. If it's simply a question of identifying people from your group who can go to certain areas in the town, I don't know whether the whole commission needs to be part of that discussion.
Well, is the Disability Commission in a position to help with funding? If funding becomes an issue, you know, do we have, as a Disability Commission, do we have access to grant money?
So let me just chime in on this as well. I respectfully, Meryl, I would say, you know, I'm inclined to kind of feel like we should include this, not getting down into the technical nitty gritty of how do you hook up this particular device or that, but just following to see that the issue is being addressed and people's needs are being met. That's really our mission as the Disability Commission. In terms of funds, so there are two things. The commission itself has some funds that have probably grown every year. I'm not sure where it's at. I can maybe send a message off to Carrie. She may have a sense of where things were, at least when she moved from finance into the town manager position. But the commission is supposed to be credited with 50% of the handicap parking fines each year. Now, during the pandemic, I think the town of Concord kind of stepped back from any kind of parking fines. But there would be money prior to that, and I'm guessing the police are getting back to being a little more concerned about, you know, parking violations at this point. Hopefully, at least for handicap parking, because that's really a big issue. So the commission would have some amount of money. I'm not sure how much. In terms of a significant amount of money, Megan, I don't know if you saw, I forwarded you an email. The Mass Commission on Disabilities, MOD, every year has funds from the Commonwealth that they submit an RF or ask people to submit proposals for any kind of adaptive equipment or changes to make public buildings or public services more accessible. So as a commission, we certainly could advise the town on what are the things that we think are most important to address. I think that, if my memory serves me correctly, I believe that grant proposal is due toward the end of September. So there's a little bit of time, but not a lot of time, because it takes a while to put together a grant proposal, and it's a, I would say, medium complicated grant proposal in terms of what they can be asking for. So we certainly can suggest things, and I would urge all of you to be thinking between now and our next meeting about what kinds of accommodations are things that would make the town more accessible to people with all kinds of disabilities. I think the amount of money that they have to give, that MOD has to give, is something like $300,000. So we wouldn't necessarily need to apply for something for $300,000, but if we had something that cost $25,000 or $50,000, and it's something that would really benefit the citizens of Concord and visitors to Concord, it would be worth, I think, the time to put in a grant proposal.
Can I ask if anybody has ever contacted Middlesex Community College's sound engineering board? I know this goes back to what Bob was saying, or Bob's issue, that about the hearing equipment, because maybe if somebody contacted one of the professors, they have students that might be interested in either going into that field or interested in helping out for free.
I think that's an excellent idea. Yeah, I mean, and that is an example of the kind of thing I think that can come from discussing this at the Disability Commission.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Grazia. Thank you.
Welcome.
Grazia,
So-
did you say
Middlesex Community College.
community college has specialized?
Well,
Is
they
that-
have sound engineering. I don't know if they have specialized hearing technology, but they must, because it's a technical school. It's a tech school. So I'm guessing, I don't know that.
Middlesex College, not the Middlesex Community College.
Middlesex Community College in Bedford.
Is a technical school?
Yes. It's a trade school. I mean, they focus on that. I don't know if they call themselves that specifically, but I know that that's what they do.
And they do have outreach into the community a good deal, or the community coming into them. They're a community-oriented organization.
In fact, my daughter is currently going there. So if you'd like, I can reach out, and try to find out.
That would be wonderful, Grazia.
Okay, sure.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
terrific.
Yeah, maybe they have someone who's just dying to do an internship or something. You
Mhm.
never know.
Right, right.
Yeah, going back to Myrtle's comments, I don't think anybody really would benefit a lot from having, technical discussions here. That's not the issue. I think the town has already invested a good deal in getting good equipment, and there's been a good deal of discussion of the technical things in that process. But at this point, it's a matter of having the resources to make it consistently operational. You can have equipment lying in a closet and nobody able to make its availability clear to the public, specifically to the people who really need that kind of accessibility. So that's the kind of thing we need to talk about. We need to talk about the problems in the process of making this fully operational with staffing, and use of volunteers or whatever that are necessary to use it properly.
Okay, so I will put this on the agenda for the next meeting. Megan offered to give us an update on where things stand with the town, and Grazia, hopefully you'll be able to bring some info from Middlesex Community College. So thank you all. So the two pieces of new business, I just want to acknowledge that June is the 33rd anniversary of the ADA. And it also is Disability Pride Month. So, those are things that we certainly could try to promote. Maybe a letter to the editor in the Bridge. I'd be happy to write something if that suits the commission.
What month is it? I thought it was,
So this is the anniversary of the ADA. So it's two different things.
right,
It's the anniversary of the ADA, and it's also Disability Pride Month,
You're talking about July.
July. Yes.
You had said, I think, June.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Am
It's
I a
all
month behind? I thought we already had 4th of July.
right. Yeah.
Right. July is the month for both of those. So would you all like me to write something, a letter to the editor in the Bridge on behalf of the commission?
that'd be wonderful. I think that's a great idea.
Yes.
Okay. Karen, Jennifer, you're nodding a little,
Yeah.
Karen.
Yeah.
Janet, sound all right to you?
Yep.
Okay, all right. I can, maybe 2 different weeks, I can do 2 different pieces, one on the ADA and one on disability pride, because I think they're both important, but we don't want them to get confused. Okay, so I have a little writing assignment. Mimi, you're here from the sorry, you're new to Concord or new to working at the town. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your position and any plans that you have that might cross with us, or ways we can support you?
So I am the new economic vitality manager. So we're still defining exactly what that means as I develop the programs, but roughly it means I'm really working to assist the businesses, either one-on-one or policy-wise, to help grow their businesses and have them feel welcomed and really connect them with city services. But that also means connecting the businesses with different community initiatives. So I started literally the same day Megan did. I've been sort of sitting in on various different community committees and commissions just to understand what their work is and to meet everyone. One thing that struck my ear was Megan had mentioned that your group was looking at how to help make some of the businesses more friendly to disabled customers and visitors. And you know, I'm someone, my mother uses a wheelchair. A number of my family have had lifelong disabilities, so I'm sensitive to some of the issues. And as I walk around Concord, I see a lot of mobility barriers in particular. I've been keeping an ear out about how Concord could potentially be more age-friendly in general, especially in terms of it being more accessible to seniors. And Megan had mentioned some of the ways your group was looking at some of the kind of low threshold ways that the businesses might be able to do that. So I've been thinking at things of like businesses making sure like the menus have got larger print. I haven't noticed that the restaurants are super loud, but that could be an issue. Being able to have doorbells so that they could meet their customers outside. So I've been keeping my kind of ear open for that. And I'm always looking at having community partners who are already working on that and how I can help bridge those relationships. So if you've got any kind of things that you're wanting to connect with the businesses, I'm here to help. Actually, later tonight, I'm working with the Ag Committee and helping to support Ag Day. So how can the nearby businesses in Concord Center kind of celebrate local foods so that's some of the ways that I'm kind of being the go-between with the different committees.
That's great. Janet?
I don't see, could you repeat your name and your title? It's not, your name isn't showing up on my.
Yeah, sorry, I'm in the parking lot outside of Harvey Wheeler on my phone because I've got another meeting here in West Concord shortly. My name is Mimi. My name is Mimi Graney, and I am the economic grainy. So it's sort of like if the picture isn't too easy to see, it looks very grainy. And my title is Economic Vitality Manager.
Okay, great. For the town?
Correct.
Thank you.
So Mimi, one of the things the commission has been doing, and the 2 members who've been working on it are not here tonight to kind of bring us up to date on their sort of more analysis, is a survey of members and others about businesses that are easy to access, that people like using because they are easy, and businesses that are difficult to access or are not open or not helpful to people with disabilities, whatever disabilities. So hopefully we'll have some info on that. We started that in the spring because we're looking forward to the 250th anniversary and wanting to support businesses to become as barrier-free as they can, reasonably, and as disability-friendly as they can. I think that oftentimes businesses do not realize the economic buying power of the disability population, and that by not trying to reach out or even just be disability friendly, that they've sort of cut off a whole segment of their potential customers.
Yep. So one thing I saw that Concord is already registered with AARP as part of this age-friendly initiative. There's Concord is part of a district with other Metro West communities, and they all together had signed up for this. So there's some resources available through AARP to help sort of look at kind of how can we meet the sort of metrics that they've established. So there's some resources I can help bring to the table when you get to that point.
Wonderful.
I'm going to be working on a survey to the Concord businesses. So asking things a little bit about like how many employees do you have? How long have you been in business? What are some of your needs? So if there's specific questions you'd like me to ask the businesses, I'm trying to make the survey not too long. So don't want to have too many questions, but if you've got, 2 or so questions that I can include, I'd be welcome them very much.
Wow.
Okay, when do you expect to send that out?
Probably not till the end of September, probably early October. We've got a lot of other projects on they're kind of taking a top priority.
Right. All right, so that gives us a chance to do some thinking about it, and I can put that on the agenda for next meeting as well. And you definitely are welcome to join us anytime. Janet.
How does this tie in with the one that Bob and Mary Beth are doing?
I don't think there's a direct tie.
How does it conflict then? How does it differ?
Well, the one that Lloyd and Mary Beth put together
Lloyd,
is
right.
specific to people with disabilities and specific to members of this commission. That's where they started, and then other friends, acquaintances, whatever. But it sounds like Mimi's questionnaire is going to be much broader and looking for ways that the town can support businesses. So there's certainly some overlap, definitely room for overlap. And I think that the info that we get from Lloyd and Mary Beth's questionnaire will be helpful to the town and to the businesses, to Mimi. Yeah, Jennifer.
Hi, sorry, I apologize for being late, Jean. So I just, if you're, Mimi, if you're talking to businesses over the next 2 months or so, I get the sense that as a business owner in Concord, especially the retail, mostly retail businesses that we're talking about, because they're the ones that are sort of most in demand in terms of accessibility in town. I think that there's a concern or a fear that if a retail establishment is targeted as being and feeling targeted, for one, is one of the fears. And then the second is that if they're identified as not accessible, that a lot of red tape and paperwork and even potentially great financial loss will follow that identification of being not accessible. So I think that's played out in other in the newspaper and in other towns and other cities. I think here in Concord, if you have the opportunity to talk to the business owners, I think that would be a question for us to consider: is what are they afraid of when it comes to making their businesses more accessible? Are they worried about the financial implications? Are they worried about not being able to squeeze as much inventory in their shop? Like I'd be really curious to know from a shop owner's perspective, what's the barrier for them? And then on the flip side of that, I think what we've seen just anecdotally walking around town in a historic town, just the front door is difficult to access because often there are stairs. Like there's either one step or two steps to get up a stone threshold into a building. I think that the next question would be, are shop owners opposed to having portable ramps kicking around? You know, do they have a place for a portable ramp? So if someone could, you know, put a portable ramp out there that they could get into their store. If that's sort of the 90% of the barrier problem that we're having is a stair or two, I think from a shop owner's perspective, you know, is that what's holding us back? And then if there's this solution out there that seems fairly straightforward and low tech, like having every shop has a little portable ramp tucked away somewhere, is that something that's amenable to those shop owners? I think that's I hear you on the questionnaire, not wanting to make it too long, but I think giving shop owners and especially retailers a voice and an opportunity to talk about what holds them back, if anything, it'd be really helpful for us to hear that.
Yeah, I think as somebody who's worked with business owners before, oftentimes there's a personality of people that go into business, which are folks that don't like anybody to tell them what to do. So that's kind of the natural personality. And then I think they're kind of like ordinary people where it's just not on their radar. And I think sometimes they're not aware of like some of the easy things that they could do that would make it more accessible, that it doesn't have to be so challenging. One thing that I've found helpful in other communities is that it's always great to give people awards. So do a little bit of a carrot along with a nudge. So celebrating the businesses that are accessible and being able to, it almost kind of shows off of best practices locally. So there might be a way of highlighting that the good things that are happening. So hearing about the commission asking people like, what are the businesses they really like to work with? That will spark a business owner, their competitive edge of like, oh, I got to keep up with the other shop.
Sure. And I think that our commission from the get-go has really, as a whole, has wanted to work collaboratively with businesses, with churches, with schools, with whatever, versus be like, no, you're not meeting the ADA, and we're going to hold you to every nth degree of that. So, we really want to see ourselves as a resource for the community to help, to offer ideas, suggestions, because sometimes all it takes is some very simple, fairly low tech and not very expensive, maybe even inexpensive modification that then makes it much more user friendly. I think that in terms of community feedback and taking action, I think Deborah's is a great example of hearing, well, yeah, we can get in the back door, but we can't get around the store because the aisles are only about this wide. And then taking that into the next phase, with the Deborah's next door, that's wide and spacious and includes a ramp and is much more disability friendly. I'm not sure that carried over into making vast changes in the original Deborah's, but at least there was the desire to try to make things better for people. And I suspect if someone went into next door and wanted to see a product that was in the original store, the staff would probably assist with that. Because they just seem like they're there to really be as helpful as they can be. But I think that's a great idea, Mimi. Some awards. We kind of talked about that once a little while ago, but never kind of dug into it. So there's another agenda item for the next meeting.
Two other ideas that you might want to just kind of meditate on or give me feedback on is one, we're going to be doing a training coming up for businesses on how they can be more environmentally sustainable. And we'll be reviewing all kinds of grant programs and how the businesses can think about, EV charging stations and heat pumps and things like that. Potentially, maybe we could do a workshop for business owners with some of the things that you all know that maybe haven't been on their radar. And then there's this program, they often call it retail best practices. And it's like a free, it's provided to businesses like a free consultant that will come in and help them sort of look at how to merchandise their store better. So oftentimes if you can think of yourself, if you're living in your own house and you don't see, the clutter on the counters anymore. For the business owners, they're not even seeing their business quite as clearly as the visitors are. So potentially we could sort of look at maybe there's some grant programs or technical assistance so that we could have almost like a consultant come into the businesses and say like, oh, this is how you can rearrange your shelves a little bit better. This is how you can think about the lighting. Oh, look at this is how hard it is to open up this door. And if you just adjust it, it will make it easier. So we might be able to kind of tie it in together, some of the disability needs and folks to improve their merchandising and their retail presence. What would be helpful for me to hear, and maybe this is part of your survey, of who are some of the top, what are some of the top priorities from the commission that you've identified, like either key businesses, key hurdles, maybe the businesses that you are kind of on your list that you're like, oh, these are the ones that are the community really needs and that they have got the biggest hurdles that we can kind of set some set of priorities. I'm not sure if you have already done that or that's what you're looking to develop.
Yeah, we have not yet, but certainly would be open to sort of slicing, dicing the data that we have and see what we can come up with for that. It's not a ton of data because there aren't that many of us, but people get around. Yeah, Jennifer.
All right, one more thing too. I think there's also there's our core, residents, and then there's visitors. And the needs are slightly different, I think, when it comes to those two groups of people. So for example, places like grocery stores, shopping at Crosby's or Concord Market or CVS, right? Those like chain stores, they take their responsibility to the ADA a little bit more seriously. They have a lot more to lose, and they're bigger chains and so on and so forth. So and those serve a residential population, but it's the smaller boutique, bespoke, locations in town that have harder. They're the visitors spots and stops. So I think that there's a huge difference between those two kinds of businesses. And then I want to just put a plug in for the non-retail businesses in town too, and making sure that we include them in our ambitions to make Concord as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. So that would include, professional offices and things like that. We're having this conversation around hearing and accessibility to all the information, whether even at town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just retail. I think it goes beyond that. So I want to make sure that we just don't focus on our retailers and our residents only, that there's just other groups of people out there. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think in my own walking around Concord, I think if people worked at making their doors take less effort to open, not necessarily having to install an electric opener, but it just takes a little bit of tweaking of whatever the door closer is to make those doors easier to open. That would be helpful, and it would be helpful certainly for people as they're aging as well.
So just,
have to-
may
can I
ask
make-
one more quick
Yeah,
question?
yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So does Concord, so Megan is our liaison for the ADA, right, on our
Right.
town? But we don't have we have a, sorry, Meg, this is nothing against you, Mimi, but we have an economic vitality person in town, but we don't have a full-time or even a part-time dedicated ADA coordinator. For Megan, and again, not that Megan can't do it, but I know she's got like 6 hats on. Maybe you'll have 6 hats too before you're done as well. It's not just one thing, it's gonna be like 6 other things, but it's a little frustrating to sit on this end and hear that we have someone who's interested, like, again, and I think part of it's just the semantics of it, where we have a law on the books about getting people in and out of spaces and around town that is really important, and yet Concord is spending its money on economic vitality. So I just as an aside, I feel like our priorities are kind of screwed up right now in town when that's what we're spending our money on, instead of actually holding people's feet to the fire when it comes to some basic accessibility issues around voting and the library and town meeting. And I mean, there's some basic stuff. So I don't mean to rant, but I just want to put some perspective on it to say that that as a commission, I feel like once we get our ducks in a row in terms of what's important, I think we should push. We should push because Concord's population is an aging population. Our visitors coming from all over the world for the 250th anniversary. It's not going to be teenagers showing up, coming looking for the 250th anniversary of the revolution. Trust me, it's not. It's going to be old folks, right? It's going to be people who care about history. And it's going to be people who want to get into the store and buy those damn souvenirs and make sure they tell all their grandkids that they were here. So again, and that's part of the economic vitality piece, which is, Mimi, thank you so much for being here. And I'm not trying to bust on anything in particular too much, but I just trying to shed a little light on the imbalance that I'm feeling about all of it right now. So.
Okay, Meryl?
I'm glad you mentioned this because I was quite surprised to hear that we had an economic vitality person. I sort of wondered who even thought that was something that the town should be funding. I mean, it's sort of a balance sheet. Just as you said, Jennifer, I totally agree that who approved of a position. I think it's great that you exist, but I'm just sort of wondering how that came about, and I'm just wondering about what is the town thinking? Where are their priorities? And it's positive, but on the other hand, it feels like things are a little out of control, or certainly out of our control, because we end up by fighting issues and have no advocacy. And yet, on the other hand, businesses have an advocate and a helper. And I'm just wondering, how did this come about?
Let me do a best guess at that,
Mhm.
because Mimi is not the first economic vitality manager. Beth Williams, who you all met, who came to a few of our meetings, was in that position previously. And I would guess that somehow the decision that the town of Concord needs an economic vitality manager came from the prior town manager administration. You know, whether it was suggesting, I don't know if the select board has to approve positions or whatever, but, and I don't see Linda tonight, but, it's not something new. It's been around for 3-4 years at least.
Mhm.
And it's, you know, it's really good for us to invest in some, you know, the economics of our community.
Absolutely.
I look at Concord and almost all of the storefronts are filled with stores. And many other communities, there are a lot of vacant storefronts.
That's
So
right.
I think that's something that, you know, Concord has had its eye on. However, I do agree, it would be wonderful. It would be probably only fair that the town devote some resources to an ADA coordinator who doesn't have to wear 6 other hats. And Megan, we love you and what you've been doing so far, so please don't take that negatively. You've been fabulous to deal with, but you have many other things on your plate.
No, no offense taken. I completely understand. I understand your perspective.
Jennifer.
To wrap this up with a bow, Mimi, I'm so glad you're here because and that you accepted the invitation to come to our meeting, because this commission really does feel strongly that the disabled population, the population of all of us at some point in our life, whether it's now or later, has a lot of buying power and can improve the economic vitality by being more inclusive town, and that our commission is really behind that. So that you came tonight is really is great, and I hope that you know, economic vitality is all about, as you said, relationships and partnerships and connecting the dots. And so so I'm excited to try to keep, you know, not drop the ball on this one in terms of our retail and our you know, the face that we present out to our residents and our visitors in town. So thank you for being here.
And I hope you all kind of know, from my perspective, disability access is something that every town employee should be thinking about. Similar, like how we work about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it really needs to be baked into everything. So I feel like that's kind of a guiding principle for how I want to do my work. And so even if I'm not officially the ADA compliance officer, I want that to be part of how I approach the work I do. So I'm really looking forward to working with all of you and getting your suggestions and guidance and feedback.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for coming tonight and hearing. I know you heard some people's frustration. It's certainly not aimed at you at all. So we're happy to have you here and working in this position. Thank you. All right. Any last pieces from anybody? So August, if I can turn my calendar. August 10th is the second Thursday. So 5 p.m. on August 10th. And we'll see you all right here on Zoom. Thank you.
I wonder how
Great
long.
discussion tonight.
Okay, we're dismissed, right? I've written down that we, at 6:10, we adjourned, but I'm curious, where the heck was I going with that? I have no idea what I was curious about. None. It's gone.
Okay.
Whatever I was curious about wasn't important.
Okay. Well, maybe you'll be curious next meeting.
Maybe I'll be curious.
If it's really important, Janet, send an email.
Right, right, definitely.
I have no idea what it was.
You know how to reach us all.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Have a good
Thank you.
upcoming weekend, and we'll see you in August.
Thanks,
Okay.
Jean.
Bye-bye.
See you then.